my organization currently is only focused on peace building.
Focus
So that's
on
the
peace
only thing
building.
we do.
The
Yeah.
other things that you just listed are under that bucket of humanitarian.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. So
Well, hello, StemToRoots, Mike Demba. This is where we plan on talking our way into a plan. Today, this is actually a special conversation. Listen to me, I say this about everybody, but I mean it. This is a special conversation because it's since the beginning of StemToRoots, I've been thinking about you specifically, about having this conversation with you, because I feel like not only a different perspective will come in, but I'm curious about so many things about you and what you do. I could not wait to have you here. And today you're generous with your time. You said you're coming and you're here. Please introduce yourself. Let's start with just your name and, and everything else I'll ask you. So, who am I talking to today?
hello, Mike, and hello, everybody. And thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure, and it's really it's a special moment for me as well. I am Timea Szarkova, and I am a peace builder, if I can put it
Peace
that way.
builder. You're starting there. Peace builder. Because I was going to ask what you do. So let's go there. Before even the peace builder, I've never heard. Timea, where are you from originally?
Right. So I am initially from Slovakia. From Hungarian origin of Slovakia, and I grew up there. And then about at the age of 18, I went to the States to do initially babysitting, and then later on, I was successfully admitted to university. So I was lucky enough to study in the States, doing my what do you call it, like associate's degree and a bachelor's degree in and around Boston.
So you left Slovakia for the US. What year was this?
2001, I believe. Yes, 2001.
So in 2001, you left Slovakia for the US for a job, for a babysitting job?
Yes. Well, initially I left because I wanted to perfect my English. So,
Okay.
I finished high school. I was waiting to get into university, and so that I had like a sort of a gap year. So
Okay.
I was really passionate about English. So I figured this would be the best way to go as a au pair babysitter.
Yeah.
And I signed up for a program. I kind of took a big leap because I was only 18,
Wow.
and it was an exciting time. But I ended up what was supposed to be a year of me
Yes.
staying. I ended up staying 7 years. So
Wow. So you took advantage of a program that was available to you right after high school, where you can leave Slovakia for the US for jobs like that, for a babysitting job, and then you ended up there. And ambitious as you are, for anybody that knows you, I've known you for a long time. You thought education is something you can get in addition to perfecting your English. So you ended up getting your associate and your bachelor's. What did you study?
initially, international studies, which is more
Okay.
like a sociology, anthropology related, kind of like very people focused
Yes.
studies. And then for my bachelor's, I've done international relations, which is a little bit shifting away towards more political,
Yes.
which of course people know that. I just like to explain, because for me that was not clear initially. I was like, what's the difference between the two? But
Yeah.
that's what it ended up being.
So international relations is more the political side of things. So here, I'm curious, making that choice. I mean, and this is coming from somebody that knows you now, right?
Yeah.
Knows you enough to say, when you got the chance to go to university, when initially that was not a plan, you again chose international studies, international relations. Was that by design? Did you have your future in mind when you were choosing that field of study?
Well, yes and no, because
Okay.
initially when I was signing up for university in Slovakia, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So at that time I was kind of in that lost space, although I knew I loved languages. And then when I was in the States, when I was looking for like the catalog of the university, I was thinking, okay, I want to choose a major that initially it was something that that makes me travel and I get paid for it. Then later on it changed into something like, okay,
I like that. I like the honesty.
a job that will help me travel while I can help people. So that's when it
Okay.
became a bit more narrowing down to really how I got to what I'm doing now.
I see.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's good. You early on in your life, like as when you started college, this is like early 20s, and you were in college, you already started thinking about how you can help people. And by people, what did this mean to you? Like, you came from that European background, you were in the States, and you're thinking about helping people. Did you already have in mind, who to help, or where in the world, or the world was just your canvas? How were you thinking about this?
I don't think at the time I really had a place in my mind. It was more
Okay.
about, I think my studies really shed a light on so much of injustice that has happened and continues to happen. And I was just feeling like, okay, if I was, if God gave me this life, then there has to be some reason for which, at least putting my effort into making it somewhat better, and this
Yes.
is always a very cheesy sentence, so I don't like saying it, but really
Give me all the cheese, man. I want to hear it. Just tell me like it is.
But that's exactly, it comes from my heart. That's why I'm not gonna leave it behind. But
exactly, go for it. Give me the cheese.
I just
yeah.
hated seeing everything that
Right.
people who were not as lucky as whatever Europeans were, and of course and a lot of the stuff that
It's okay.
that that politicians, as well as the old powers have done to the world, and I really hated that.
So there was a level, there's a level of activism in that. There's a level of, I'm going to jump in this field and do my part, because you were starting to see, the imbalance in just how certain people are served less, right?
Yeah.
And so let's fast forward. You graduated your bachelor's. What year was this?
2006.
In 2000, yes.
Yeah.
In 2006, 2007, you graduated with what degree?
So that was Bachelor's of Arts. Yes, in
international relations. And then what did you do? What did you do at that point? What did you do with your life?
Where did I take it? From then on, I was trying to find a job in the US initially, but also being an immigrant in the States, it was already the whole study. Let's say the factor of trying to study in the US was already a very long and hard struggle. You remember and about it quite well.
Yeah.
And then I've had a short-term position with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yes.
That's for about, I think it was 6 to 7 months as like an office clerk, receptionist, and so. And then I was at the time I was looking for ways to stay in the States. I thought that perhaps that will be my, I don't know, ticket to the future and such. And I was, trying to find a way. But then something kind of hit me, and I said, okay, well, it's probably better for me to come back to Europe, to Europe, because at the time my country, Slovakia, was already a member of the European Union.
Yes.
So I was coming back to a better situation than what I left behind.
Yes.
My country, I grew up, I was born and raised in communism. So we really, as much as Europe is not known for that, but I'm coming from Eastern Europe, which is very different from Western Europe, and living on rations, and the very, very planned economy where you have a certain amount of bread and milk that is being sold every single day, nothing else, nothing more. So if you left out, forget about you. So it was that scarcity in which I was sort of born and raised. But my family, of course, always tried their best, and bless my father, he was really doing so much to give us more. But so basically that's the background I came from, and I thought initially that, okay, well, perhaps if I stay in the US, then I'll have, a better future. But knowing all the difficulties, and I said at some point it felt like it wasn't right for me,
Yeah.
because I tried and then things were just not going that way. I said, okay, perhaps it's my time to sort of let go and let sort of fate lead the way.
Yes.
And I went back home in 2007.
Yes.
And yes, as I mentioned, it was already European Union, so situation was different.
Yeah.
It was difficult too. I really have to say it was very difficult to come back. It's kind of like the reverse cultural shock. You come back home and you're like, is this really what I left
Where am I?
behind?
After how many years in the States again? Remind
7
people.
years.
7
Yeah.
years. So after 7 years, you go back to Slovakia, and home felt like something you have to restudy again.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the fact that I left so early, early when I say like, I was 18, so I
18,
went
yeah.
I kind of discovered myself, if I, whatever, put it another cheesy way, I kind of
You
discovered my
started
personality.
being an adult away from home. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and I kind of I found myself in that new environment, a different kind of person. So when I came back, I was like, okay, well, this too has to reconcile, because this is still my origin. I still need to be able to, of course, fit in and able to, relate to people, of course.
Yes. And here you are at home. How long were you at home, and what did you do at home before you left home? And when I say home, I mean Slovakia.
Right. So, initially when I was looking for jobs, and even that was a bit difficult because it's true that I came with the US degree, 2 degrees, but I didn't yet have sufficient work experience. I only had that, a little bit of job left and right, and with the Massachusetts Commonwealth. So then I got a job with the US Embassy in Slovakia, in my capital, which was really, really, really great. Actually, that was kind of like my way back into Slovakia, because I was still, with the same culture that I kind of grew familiar with,
Exactly.
and I'm still back in my country, so I'm still able to use, the English that I loved very much by that point. And it just helped me kind of transition back into Europe in general.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had that job. You were working for the U.S. Embassy based in Slovakia, and then for how long?
I was there about, I think, 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 months. So it was also a temporary job on the visa department.
Yeah.
That was such an interesting experience, speaking of which, because, 7 years before that, or 7.5 years before that, I was the one on the other side
seeking
of that
a
window.
visa. Yes.
Oh my God! Like I could see those nervous faces, people barely speaking any English, and they're like, yes, and I because I did a lot of interpretation for the consul who was like deciding about visa and everything, and then of course I worked behind the curtains, so I was more like the one like stamping the whatever visas into the passport and stuff like that. But it was very very interesting.
So it was you, the denials. Jeez.
I saw because during those 7 years my parents and my sister tried to come and visit me. None of the times they got the visa. So because I work now in the system, I was able to look them up in the system, and I find out the reasons what they put there, what comments they put there, why they were rejected the visa. I'm like,
wow,
this is crazy.
It's crazy. It was made up.
Turns,
yeah. So you did that job, less than a year, and by the time that contract or that short-term employment ended, was it a time to kind of like revisit the drawing board, or you already had plans on what to do next? What happened after that?
Yeah, so by then I really wanted to what I thought at the time, what I really wanted to do, like international development,
Okay.
Since I studied a lot in my bachelor's degree, a lot about development work, not so much about humanitarian work, which is, I'll come to that in a little bit. So I was looking for opportunities, to work abroad, to contribute in the world, anywhere, with NGOs, even like Slovak NGOs or any NGO that I knew would be taking, let's say, so-called beginners, because I was still kind of at the beginning of my career.
Fresh. So, somebody who is willing to teach you. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's how I came across. I mean, I was so excited when MSF, Doctors Without Borders, came to do a presentation in our capital, in Bratislava. And they started to present about, the work they do, and so like just did a really like honest, great presentation about the work, everywhere in the world. And I
Yes.
just, I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like they got me. I don't even know if they
They
won me,
got
but
me.
they got me
Yeah.
already.
Yes. Yes.
So I applied. And it was a very tedious and long selection process, because
Process.
they
Yes.
really, they really need to make sure that you're, ready for the work. And
Yes.
it's not like your typical interview where you go in and like, oh, where do you
Yeah.
see yourself in 5 years? It's really, really different. It's very psychological in a sense that, like they want to see how you, what kind of person you are, how do you get along with people,
Yes.
and many of the, so it was like I think it was a 3-day, if I remember well, a 3-day
Yes.
recruitment selection process with
Yes.
like different exercises. They put you in a group with people that you've never met before.
Yes.
You're supposed to like solve like a group task, and see how it was super
Collaborate,
interesting.
how you coordinate with other people,
Yeah,
knowing that
and
you're
I think
going
they
out
also
there in
want to
the world.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. They also, I think they want to see like whether, do you take sort of a leadership position, or, are you ready to do the teamwork, or are you just somebody who's going to be like, I don't know, leave,
Right.
screw you guys, I'm going to do my own thing, because it was
Right.
like a problem that was presented to us, and like, how are we going to solve it, all of us, as a team.
I see.
It was really interesting. Yeah.
I see.
So
I see. So you did that. You saw this opportunity to work with Doctors Without MSF, Doctors Without Borders,
yeah, that's it.
and that's that. So I'm curious to know
Mhm.
whether before that you did think about jobs or a career or work that's related to what MSF and Doctors Without Borders do, or was that the opening to that? Because way in the beginning, you always did want to help. You did want to be out there in the world, getting paid to travel and know other cultures. You always had that. But did you know what path or what doorway to take, or was it MSF that presented that to you?
Yeah, it's more like that. MSF presented that to me, because I kept on thinking, like I said, in my studies, we learned a lot about development work, and
Okay.
development work is is the long term engagement,
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
building schools, building hospitals,
Yes.
type of
Yes.
thing. That
Yes.
was my idea in the back of my mind. But then
Right.
when MSF came, I was like, that first of all, that was my opportunity. Second of all, that was okay, it's gonna sound silly, but that was more like, oh my God, so that's the other end of the spectrum,
Right.
where we
Right.
have the humanitarian, work, sort of rush and trying to, deploy to places where needs are, immediate and
Yes.
very urgent.
Yes.
But that's literally sort of saving lives type of work. And
Yes.
without trying to be any kind of a, I don't know, savior syndrome, because I don't have
Right.
that, but or at least
Yeah.
I hope I don't. But and when they presented that, it's really just showing like how many contexts they work in. When it comes
Right.
to I don't know, infectious disease, or
Okay.
malnutrition, or war context, or natural disaster, and
Yeah.
anything. And I just said, okay, well, this is, this would actually allow me to test myself in that environment. It's already the spectrum, even if it's
Yes.
this end of the spectrum.
Yes.
That's still, that's amazing. Like I actually thought that actually fits me better than what I thought would be my match in development work, because
Okay.
I'm super like hyperactive.
Yeah.
As you can
Yeah.
tell, I talk a lot and I talk
Yeah,
fast.
I think
so
my audience already picked that up in your voice and tone. You go boom, 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 and this is why I actually intentionally took this route of questioning. I want your background to be known. I want my audience to know where you started, and basically what your thought process is as you grew into the career that you are in right now. And this is why. So now I want to take me and everybody else to where you are right now, right? Before I connect you to, what do you do today?
Currently, as I said, I'm a peace builder. So it's a word that is not really known in the, I guess, in a common, sense.
Exactly.
I work in peace building, and I kind of highlight that because it's not peacekeeping, it's peace building, and there's again difference between the terms. So which means that we're working on facilitating solutions to peace.
Yes.
Bringing peaceful solutions, to situation where maybe hope has been lost and trust has been lost, between groups of people.
Okay. Okay. And working for an organization, obviously, what does the organization label itself as? What it does? The
Yeah, so
organization you
the
work for.
yeah, so I work for Concordis International, and it is a
Okay.
peace building organization. This is
Peace
why,
building
yeah.
organization. Okay.
So it is sort of another. So now I spoke about the spectrum, the
Yes.
humanitarian development spectrum, and
Yes.
somehow last, let's say, 15, maybe 20 years, they
Yes.
realized that okay, there is no stability and development without peace, and there is
Yes.
no peace without
Ah.
development. So
Hmm.
that's how sort of the whole nexus, it's
Hmm.
a very
Hmm.
catchphrase and I don't like it at all, but the whole
Yeah.
nexus between the
Yeah.
three,
Yeah.
humanitarian development and peace, came into
Yes.
sort of existence. So realizing that it's not enough to save lives, that's humanitarian. It's not enough
Yeah.
to build schools. If the war continues, all of that is all is not enough.
Yes.
It's not good enough. So and that's where sort of the social cohesion, the
Yes.
specific solutions came
Yes.
into a lot of the sort of organizations interventions and activities, to try to make sure that what they do, well, first of all, what they
Yeah.
do should not create conflict, which I can get into that later.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
second of all, that it goes hand in hand somehow, joined up. But so our organization is, instead of doing various things, because there's
Yes.
organizations that do, for example, water and sanitation,
Yes. Yes.
shelter,
Yes.
I don't know, nutrition, and then they have like a department for peace building.
Yeah.
My organization currently is only focused on peace building, so
Focus
that's
on
the
peace
only thing
building.
we do.
The
Yeah.
other things that you just listed are under that bucket of humanitarian.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. So we that's how. So what we do, we collaborate with them, and we don't try to
Yes.
do everything, because we know that our specialty is really this, mediation, conflict resolution, and
I
if
see.
there's need, if there, of course, there's other needs that surface, then we collaborate with the other organizations and let them know, okay, there's there's this and this situation, and we can, we sort of channel the needs assessment to others, who can respond to those problems.
Obviously, for peace building, for peace focused work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will have to be, this is service that has to be rendered, to a place that needs it, obviously. And so, which first I will ask, where are you rendering this service today?
Right. So I am in Central African Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah, since 2018.
Since 2018.
Initially, it was both. I was managing a program, in Mauritania as well, and Central African Republic. But then Central African Republic became more than a handful, so
Yes.
I handed back Mauritania to my colleagues, and I kept Central Africa. As it is a very complex, situation and complex mission that we have. So it was necessary that I can focus on it.
You focus, and I see how that will stretch you thin, because Mauritania's location and Central African Republic, that proximity, can actually extend, what you have to give as far as like focus, and already you've taken us to what you do, where you do it, and I'm curious to know, as an organization, so here you are, your presence in Africa, for the last 5 years you've been focused on CAR, because obviously for what you do, there's that level of conflict that requires, that help in peace building and giving people hope and stuff. So as an organization, your presence in the world, where are you most present?
So we are tiny, a very small organization compared to many others.
Yes. Okay.
When I started, we used to have Mauritania. We had South Sudan. Well, sorry, Sudan, South Sudan, because there's a contested land between the two countries, which is ABA. So we're in ABA, and then we started Central Africa. So at the time it was 3. Now we closed down Mauritania, and we opened Darfur. So we have Sudan as Darfur. We have the contested territory between Sudan and South Sudan. We have Central Africa. So it's still 3 countries.
Still 3 countries, and your entire focus on this peace building and peace focused work is generally 100% Africa related.
Mm.
And this is where I want to just go way back to your career and where it started, right? When it started, here you are focused on that triangle or that spectrum. You focus on the importance of the peace building, and now me understanding that, it makes sense to me because those connect, right?
Yeah.
For me personally, and I'm sure a lot of people, when we think about that level of aid that goes to Africa, mostly what I think about is the humanitarian side, because that's what I see on TV and stuff like that. And you're doing different work, even though this is important. But the humanitarian side of things is something that you're experienced with too, because you've not always been with this current company. Give me more on your background, even before this job that you're on right now. What have you done in that continent of Africa, and when did you go there initially?
So as I mentioned, when I got hired with Doctors Without Borders,
Yes.
Shortcut of MSF,
Yes. Yeah. Where?
I joined them as administrator, finance person, and like human resources and such, because that was my high school background.
Yes.
And I started. Yeah, the first place where they deployed me was the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
So I started in 2009 in DRC. And yeah, it was a very remarkable place, gorgeous, amazingly beautiful place. Very, I worked in a east part of the country, which is at the time when I was there, in the village where we had the mission, or sorry, I have to clarify this, because when we say mission, it always sounds like it's some kind of religious mission, but it's never that. So I'd never worked with a religious organization. It's what we call humanitarian mission. So the village where we had our mission was very isolated. We had no phone reception, no internet, no nothing. So that was my first mission, like drop deep into it. And it was a very unstable context.
They're like, Timea, you wanted this, here it is. Boom. They gave you a start there.
All of it, all of it. Because, so what I didn't mention, actually, during my studies, my bachelor studies, I've done one semester in Tanzania, which was my first time in Africa. So I've done a research, like an independent research in north of Tanzania. And I did that like as part of the credit course and everything. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Who cannot love Tanzania, honestly? But anyways, for me that was for me that was like my first the first time I've been to the continent, and I was already like absolutely enchanted. Honestly, I loved it so much. And so when they were looking, so basically I've gone through the selection process with MSF, which I said took a long time. Then there was like a whole week of preparation. They do this as a pre-departure preparation training.
Right.
So they really get you ready, psychologically, mentally, blah, 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 to be deployed to so-called difficult areas.
Yes.
And so, then they sent me to DRC. And so Eastern DRC, like I said at the time, was, I think until today, because I haven't followed up, but it was very unstable. So we would have,
unstable as in peace.
Yeah,
Safety.
Exactly. So unfortunately, there's still too much of rebel activities, and so like the village was attacked every second week or third week.
Wow.
You'd either have to hibernate in the house, or you'd have to evacuate, and me, first time in charge of an organization's money and project and human resources, and all of a sudden you have to kind of know what you're doing. When the bullets are flying, you're like, okay, what do I do first? Which of course you should save your life first. You shouldn't worry about all the rest. But that was my first, let's say, humanitarian mission. It was really, really, really tough mission, but it was really, I guess, what we call baptism by fire. I really learned a lot. I really
jumped right in.
Jumped right in, and again, I don't think many people start the humanitarian career directly with a sort of war context, or whatever you want to call, Many people go to sort of like easier places, something that they can get used to the work, the tasks and everything, the responsibility that comes with it, and then they kind of get deployed. But somehow I guess I was always liking challenges. And when they proposed to me, I was like, yes, I'll definitely go. I wanted to.
Just wanted to do it. Yeah. You've answered that question about, like, where it all started. You started in DRC with that mission with MSF. You started seeing Africa on top of already experience in Tanzania. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing another side of Africa that, you know, even though your work was administrative, but you have a context of the work that they're trying to do there, to be helpful. Knowing the continent, or seeing the continent from that angle, is one that a lot of Africans don't know. And my audience, mostly here in the diaspora, as we are outside of Africa looking back at Africa, we have a certain perception that comes from our experience there,
Mm-hmm.
and a certain perception that is actually implanted in our heads from the media, from the access that we have to information about the continent, right? A lot of my audience, a lot of the people that I talk to, don't know the Africa that you've experienced, because it's not our career choice, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you are there in the trench, and this is why I wanted you here. You've experienced the trenches where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from Gambia, I've never experienced that level of conflict. I've never, apart from the coup d'etat in 1994,
Mm-hmm.
which was for a day of instability. I've never had to hide from bullets. I've never
Mm-hmm.
had to be trained on what to do and stuff like that, right? So when somebody asks me my perception of, home, right,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot explain it in the way you do, and
Sure.
and this is why your voice is important here, for so many reasons that I can't wait get into, because we're halfway. I can't believe we're halfway. In just
Oh my God.
introducing yourself, we're already halfway. I want
Uh-huh.
to talk about all of that on the other side. But in taking a pause here at StemToRoots, there's something I called Timea. Tell me something you think I don't know. It better be a good one. What do you think you know that I don't know?
It's hard to guess because what I don't see into your brain.
Try.
But me being a crazy person about cats, I don't know if you knew that
Yes,
the
you have cats. Yeah, I know that.
purring, cat purring is actually happens in a certain vibration that
Okay.
is healing to human body cells. So when you're
Cats.
sitting, yes, when you're sitting next to a cat and the cat is purring, it means that you're actually your body, if you're sick or have any, it's actually helps the renewal of the cells because it's the same frequency. Yeah, so the cats
Timea,
are very helpful to have in the house.
are you encouraging my audience to own cats?
Yes, absolutely. I love cats. I love cats.
Well, you guys hear that? I've never owned a cat, and that's something that I didn't know. And recently, I've been into like vibrations and sounds and and,
Ah,
and all of that. I've been into that, meditation, everything. So this
amazing.
is something that, I'm not promising you to go own a cat, but I'm curious enough to know to want to know a little bit more about that, and I will. I promise you. By the time we talk next, I'll tell you I've Googled it, I've looked into it. Thank
Great.
you for that. Thank you for
No
that
problem.
segment. Hopefully somebody will make use of that information more than I do. But I'm ready to jump right back in. Okay.
Okay, let's
And
go.
where I want to start, Timea, is